Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I want to just take a look over here at SPY and the broader markets. SPY is the S&P 500 ETF that tracks it. And within the S&P 500, there are 11 different sectors. And at different times, different sectors are kind of in control. And then within the sectors, there are different industries. And at different times, the industries are kind of in control of the sector. So you start at the top, look at the S&P. Then the next level down is the sectors. And then if we want to go even farther down, we could look at the industries. Now, if you go up to the S&P fact sheet, just type in SPY, then SSGA for State Street Global Advisors, it will show you the holdings. And here are the sectors in technology, financials, healthcare, communication services, industrials, consumer discretionary, consumer staples, energy, real estate, materials, and utilities. Now, these three guys here, real estate, materials, and utilities, are so small, they don't really affect the broader market. But even though energy is really small, it's less than 4%, energy affects everything. So we usually look at oil and look at natural gas and so forth. Now the S&P has been very quiet over the last couple of days here. It hasn't really even moved. It's basically been unchanged for the last 3 days. If we start to head lower, let's look for some short-term support around 480. There tends to be support at levels that were at resistance before, and 480 was this resistance back here. How does that happen? Actually, before I explain, I will show you another example. See how resistance here turned into support over here? Well, there's people who sell, and then when the price goes higher, a lot of them finally say, I thought I made the right move, but now the price is higher. I think I made a mistake. So if this falls back to my price and I get it at the same price I sold at, I'm going to buy my shares back. So we're due for some kind of a short-term consolidation or correction. So I'd look at, for short-term traders, look to 480 for a potential bounce. All right, here's our technology sector. Now look what's going on in here. Look at this reversal. Let's talk about reversal patterns. Okay, most people really don't understand patterns because there's all this myth and mystery around them, but it really shouldn't be the case. When the leadership of a market is changing, the the trading dynamics just happen to show up on the chart as something that looks like a pattern sometimes. Here's an inverted V for obvious reasons. So the blue team is in charge, right? In honor of the football games that are on later. Just pretend the blue team is driving the ball down the field here. And the red team all of a sudden makes like a goal line stand and it starts to turn around. So notice how there wasn't a single red day. The red days are down days in this like 3 week period. And now all of a sudden in the last 2 days, we've got this reversal. So the red team could be taking over here. Again, when the leadership changes from bears to bulls or vice versa, sometimes the price action just happens to appear on the chart as something that looks like a pattern. For example, right down here, you could say this is the regular V pattern as opposed to the inverted V. Here, the red team is in charge, and then the blue team takes over, and that shows up as this little V pattern. It's nothing like astrology or reading tea leaves or things of that nature. It's just common sense. Reading charts is about understanding supply and demand. That's it. Okay, doesn't need to be more complicated than that. Now, unless you've been under a rock, and even if you have been under a rock, I guess depending on what rock it is, we know that Magnificent Seven has been going higher. And are we ready for a magnificent reversal? Well, this is the semiconductor industry ETF, which is part of the technology sector. And look at the reversal action here. On this day here, on Thursday, it looked like it was going to be another up day. This was the opening price up here. But by the close, the sellers have pushed it all the way back down. Now we're sitting on this little short-term support level here around 188.20. So it was support there. See, we tend to get support at levels that were support before because you have people who sold and then the price goes higher and they say, if I can get my shares back at the same price I sold them at, I'm going to. So when the price gets back to their level, if you have remorseful sellers placing buy orders, it could turn the level into support. Is there enough of them? So it's the same thing as down here, but it just manifests itself in a different way. Here, seller's remorse can turn resistance into support, and here, seller's remorse can keep support intact. So if we look at the big stocks that make up this industry, NVIDIA testing its uptrend line, not really seeing that much of a reversal there yet. But some of the other ones, Taiwan Semi, well, actually, I take it back. That was not really reversing yet either. Uh, but look at the action in Broadcom. So this is what you would call an outside reversal day in Western terminology. In Eastern candlestick language, you would call this a bearish engulfing pattern. Now, again, it's not important to remember what the pattern is or what it's called. Just think of what it shows here. Blue team's in charge on this particular day. It looked like the blue team was going to be in charge again. It opened up here in the morning. It looked like it was going to be another up day, but by the close, it went all the way back down and closed below the prior day's opening price. So the fact that we blew through these important price levels suggests there could be some momentum going to the downside here. Advanced micro devices, this looks like it could be taking a little bit of a turn. Now, if you want to see what's in the ETF, you can go to the ETF fact sheet for SMH. That we were just looking at the semiconductor ETF. Look at this here. It's important to know if you're trading these things. NVIDIA is basically 20% of the sector. So I don't know how many stocks you have here. Probably in the sector, I don't know. If I had to guess, maybe 30 or 40. I'm sorry, in the industry, maybe 30 or 40. But one of them is 20% of it. So that shows why NVIDIA is so important. Okay, so Intel, ASML. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting lesson here, which I actually talked about last week. It's an example of what we call market memory. Remember I talked about how support can stay intact? Well, look at this. Support here was intact around 43.65 from November of 17 all the way to February of 22. It's what we call market memory. Then on Friday, the stock collapses. And look at where it finds support at this precise level that's been important now for over 6 years. All right, everybody. So I think that's pretty much it. The financials are looking a little bit overextended. So financials are looking overextended, which means there could be a reversal there. Tech looks like it's about to really reverse because of what's going on with the semis. The other sectors, industrials, consumer discretionary, so forth and so on, they all look either neutral to slightly bearish. And I just want to take a look at oil before I go here. Yeah, we've been looking for this move higher in oil. I think it's got some more upside. I think it gets up to about 80.50. This is what we call the ascending triangle pattern. If you understand the dynamics it illustrates, it's easy to understand why it's a bullish pattern. The sellers hang out up here. See where there's resistance? So the sellers are patient. They're okay with when the buyers come to them. But the buyers, as time go by, get more aggressive. They're willing to pay higher prices. The valleys form at a higher price than the prior valley. So as time is going by, we have aggressive sellers getting antsy, and we get complacent. We have aggressive buyers getting antsy and anxious, and we have aggressive sellers who are being complacent. So aggressive buyers, complacent sellers sets the stage for a move higher. Okay, everyone, please make sure you check back this week. It should be a pretty interesting week in the market. I think we're going to see could be on the verge of a pretty big reversal here, which seems to have already started. Okay, at least in the semis. All right, thanks, everybody. I'll see you soon.